So today we're looking at arithmetic sequences. An arithmetic sequence is a sequence of numbers that's increasing or decreasing by the same amount every single time. Okay, for example, take a look at table A. Notice we've got x, we've got f of x, and as x is going up by 1, f of x every single time is increasing by 7. All right, notice that. Every single time, we're just adding 7 to get the next number in the sequence. So that makes it an arithmetic sequence. Okay? Now, to represent this pattern, we can write two different kinds of equations for it. The first kind of equation is an explicit equation. It's probably one you've learned before. It allows us to write an equation that will get us any value of f of x based off of x. All right? So for our explicit equation, we're trying to calculate f of x, so the number in this column. Now, to write the explicit equation, first we need to know, what does f of x start at? What's its starting value when x is 0? In this case, pretty easy. It starts at 2. So we'll say 2. Now, we know it's repeatedly adding 7 to it. So we say plus 7, and we're going to multiply 7 x times because we're repeatedly adding 7. So if we're trying to find x is 1, we'd multiply 7 by 1 because we're adding 7 one time. Or if x is 4, we're going to add 7 4s, so we're going to do 7 times 4. There's our explicit equation. F of x is 2 because it starts at 2, and plus 7x because we're repeatedly adding the 7s. Okay? Now the recursive equation is an equation that's based on knowing the value of the previous value. Okay? So I'll give you an example here. So for f of x, we know that we're repeatedly adding 7 to get the next value. So if I know, let's say, x is 2, f of x is 16, I can figure out what f of x would be if x is 3 because we simply add 7 to it. All right? So our recursive equation, we're going to write it something like this. We want the current value, so I'm going to call that now. Okay? The current value of f of x is equal to whatever the previous value was. So, for example, if I'm trying to find f of 3, I'm going to take the previous value, which is 16, and then simply add 7 to it. All right? And that is what a recursive equation does. It's an equation based on knowing what the previous value was. So anytime I want to find the value of f of x, I take the previous one and then add 7 to it. Okay? Now later on, we'll learn how to write this in a slightly more mathematical way. But for right now, this is what we're looking for. All right? Now is equal to the previous plus 7. Okay? So now let's look at another example here. Table B here. Notice, table B, it starts at 40, and every time x goes up by 1, this time we're repeatedly subtracting 6 each time. This is still an arithmetic sequence because we are decreasing by the same amount every single time. Or you could think of it as we're adding -6 every single time. Okay? So let's start with our explicit equation. We're trying to find f of x. So f of x is equal to, now when x is 0, f of x is 40, so that's our starting value. And we're repeatedly subtracting 6, so we're going to minus 6x. There's your explicit equation. All right? Now, for the recursive equation, to get the current value of f of x, we know we're going to take whatever the previous value was, and if we know the previous value, we simply subtract 6 from it, and we'll get the current one. So the recursive equation is now is equal to the previous minus 6. And that'll allow us to get any f of x just by knowing the previous value. Okay? So that's what you need to know about arithmetic sequences. Hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, please hit that like button. Also subscribe because it really helps us out. But with that being said, good luck on your math, and I will see you next time.